The Dogman legend is very popular across Michigan, but some people may not know it all started as a prank.
From an unnerving silence in the wilderness to this strange sound emanating through the dead of night outside a cabin in the middle of nowhere, here's how this hunter captured the creepiest Michigan Dogman encounter on trail cam. Sometimes we are confronted with stories that are just too bizarre to believe. Sometimes it's a story about an encounter with the legendary Bigfoot. Other times, it's the sighting of a supernatural being or phantom. Often you'd find that what makes these stories truly unbelievable is the fact that there is never any conclusive proof that such a being was spotted. Well, that changes today. Today, we have evidence of something truly bizarre. Thanks to this trail cam, we have proof of what John Alden, a native of Michigan, experienced while he was making his way through the wild. Join us as we go down this crazy road to witness the truly insane and bizarre. John Alden and his love for the creatures in the woods. One of the things that makes this peculiar account of the unbelievable truly bizarre is the fact that our witness today, John Alden, is not just some schmo making his way through the woods in Michigan. No, John is actually a really experienced outdoorsman who was eager to go where no man had ever done before. At least that is the reputation he has earned thanks to his sense of adventure and curiosity over time.
Can you just walk us through it? Tell us from the beginning what happened that day.
I was picking up a load, and as I was coming back, there was an air leak that I had, so I pulled in here.
During one of his expeditions into the woods, he was actually able to walk through that blurry line that separates reality from the things that come out of our imagination. During an interview with John, he revealed that his love for the great outdoors could be traced back to his childhood. Due to the fact that he started camping and exploring these woods at such a young age, John quickly became a seasoned hiker with a ton of knowledge when it came to the woods that can be found in Michigan. This would be a massive plus when it came to one fateful night. On said night, you may be surprised to find that John was simply enjoying a quiet evening by relaxing in his cabin that lay deep within the lush Michigan wilderness. His aim of becoming one with nature would be dashed that night, as once the sun went down, John could feel this strange eeriness in the air. During an interview, John would reveal that this surreal experience developed in such a strange manner that it would change his life forever. After all, he had visited that cabin hundreds of times before the incident, and as such, he figured that this was the best place for him to experience the best that the wildlife in the area had to offer. On any given evening, he would either be fishing or deer sighting before heading back to the cabin. Well, things would be different on this night. Once he noticed how strange things seemed to be, John was on edge. However, he could not dismiss the fact that the entire forest seemed to be quiet. Not a chirp of a cricket, not the howl of a coyote. Sometimes, John said, they were even lucky enough to hear the hoot of an owl. But no, not tonight. Tonight, you could probably hear a pin drop in these Michigan woods. Truly eerie stuff.
I was approached by something that cast a shadow. The moon was just coming up, was almost a full moon.
John did his best to shake the feeling off, dismissing the strangeness as a result of one too many brewskis, or as a result of the strange weather. He went on about his business. This business involved him setting up a trail cam, among other things. This wasn't an odd thing for him to do, though. Turns out that John did set up these trail cams in the area from time to time and such. This was just one of many trail cams that he had in the area at that time. He just loved getting clips of forest creatures as they made their way around the forest in the dead of night. This particular trail cam was a new one, according to John. Not only was it new, it also had night vision goggles, and as such, he figured that this would be the best thing to use to get some footage of the creatures in the night. He revealed that he set the trail cam close to his cabin, and that when he did that, he wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. Little did he know that setting up this trail cam would change his life and everything he knew about these woods forever. An encounter of the strangest kind. According to John, strange events began to take place when the sun set. Just around 9 p.m., John noticed that the air was still and quiet. Despite this strange feeling, John finished setting up the trail cam before heading back to his cabin. He figured that all he would get for his efforts was some footage of some of the creatures of the night doing their thing in the woods when humans were absent. Boy, was he in for a shocker. Following this, John made his way back to the cabin. After making himself some dinner, John couldn't help but feel this sense of uneasiness. It had been a long time coming, to be honest. Even when he made his way back to the cabin, he could feel this uneasiness as these forest creatures just seemed to have gone missing or something. Not a chirp within range, not a creature in sight. John tried to shake these strange feelings off. He figured that maybe these creatures had moved on to some other side of the woods. After having his dinner, he decided to call it a night. He would find that this was easier said than done. The silence of the night proved to be too unnerving for him. Well, the stillness would come to an abrupt end, because John's restless sleep would be suddenly interrupted by this unnerving sound that was unlike anything that he had ever heard in his life. That says a lot for someone who had spent a ton of time in and out of these woods for a good chunk of his life. According to John, the sound was so unnerving that even during the interview, it sent shivers down his spine. John recalled that the sound began as some sort of faint growl. However, this was unlike any growl that he had heard from any animal. This low, faint growl seemed to be more guttural than anything.
After the song came out, it started to generate so much interest. They would come in waves from people saying that this creature is real, and we know it's real because we have evidence of it.
It came off in a way that started off as a low grumble that slowly evolved into a sharp, high-pitched wail. It was almost as though some sort of banshee was out there, shrieking into the dead of night. It was so guttural, so primal, that it left an impression on John for the rest of his life. As you can imagine, John was crippled with fear in those moments. What could be responsible for such a strange noise? If we can recall, we may remember that John stated that he had never heard anything like this before. This says a lot for someone who has visited these woods so many times. It was probably a second home to him. Understandably terrified to his core, John did his best to compose himself. The first thing he did was try to rationalize what was going on out there. Surely, this must be some sort of animal out there, right? He just hasn't come across it yet. Maybe some sort of Michigan wolverine? Maybe a panther? These were plausible enough thoughts, but what could he do about the fact that these noises were so bizarre they were almost alien-like to him? As he tried to make sense of it all, another element of dread was added to the situation when John realized that the strange sounds were getting closer. They seemed to be so close it was almost as if the vibrations were passing through the walls. What on earth was going on? Frightened and shaken to his core, John began to scramble as he tried to think of all the possibilities when it came to what may be approaching his cabin. Surely, this must be some sort of prank that someone was playing on him. If so, it was getting less funny by the moment. Such thoughts passed on quickly as he began to worry that someone out there may be in danger and might need some help, maybe even his help. He must have swallowed a huge gulp in those moments, because that would mean that he would have to go out there. This may have been a huge ask from John, because he feared that whatever was out there may have been too powerful and too primal for him to deal with. Whatever it was, though, John was sure that it definitely wasn't human. With such thoughts running through his head, it is understandable that John was close to losing his mind. According to the man himself, his heart was pumping so hard in those moments that he could probably hear it alongside the howls. He was so scared that he was drenched in sweat. Frozen to a standstill, our boy John must have wished that he decided to stay back home on this fateful night. Somehow, though, John managed to regain enough consciousness to hightail it out of there. He knew that whatever it was, John was the one in its territory, not the other way around. However, as he made his way out of there, the scene would prove to be so shocking that John himself would tell us that nothing on earth could have prepared him from what he was about to see when he tried to run away from the scene. What on earth was that? John had it all to do when it was time to make it out of there. Almost crippled to a standstill thanks to the unnerving sound that just seemed to be making its way closer to him by the second, John knew that there was a good chance that his life was at stake. With that in mind, he crept out of his bed quietly, doing all he could to not make a sound as he made his way through his cabin. Although visibility wasn't so great, John was thankful that the moon cast its pale cascade over the dark forest. This was enough for him to see some of the strange shadows that were making their way through these trees. Staring out to see all he could with this limited lighting, John tried to make out what may be out there. Just as he was about to give up, John was startled by the sudden movement of a being that he couldn't make out at that point.
A wolf head
Yeah.
staring at you.
Staring at me, keeping up with me. I'm at about 20 miles an hour.
What are the chances here that this is a bear or a wolf that jumped onto the side of your truck and was essentially trying to get in?
There's no chance of that. He was running next to me on 2 legs.
On 2 legs.
The truth had finally come to him, and it was as unnerving as ever. There was definitely something out there in the woods. Thinking back, John recalled that the creature that was making its way through the shadows in the forest was something that looked as though it was large, perhaps even hostile and aggressive. What was even more unnerving about the experience was that in this moment, a sudden flash of light hit the scene, and this allowed John to look into the eyes of this strange creature that was lurking in the darkness. John was taken aback by what stood before him in the wilderness, because according to the man himself, this creature proved to be nothing like he had ever seen in his life. Aside from the fact that the creature looked to be bipedal to John, the creature also stood out to the outdoorsman because it was tall and massive. In fact, according to John, this creature was taller than any man that John had ever seen. That must have been frightening enough for John, but that was not the end of it. Another thing that stood out about this creature is that it was reported to be covered in thick matted fur. As if that wasn't enough, John was still in a state of unease due to the unnerving and unyielding eyes of the creature that stood in the darkness of the woods. As dark as the scene was, John was truly frightened because, again, this was a creature that he had never seen before. Some may blame this on the somewhat paralyzing fear experienced by John, but if you ask him today, John would tell you that the creature he saw wasn't a bear or a wolf. Looking at the creature, John was struck by awe and fascination as the creature suddenly came to a halt. Lifting its head to get a whiff of the scents in the air that night, the creature's imposing form made John freeze up even more. He dare not move. He didn't want to catch the attention of this strange creature, as he didn't know what would come with that attention. Luckily, freezing up helped, or so it seemed.
What stood out was white, and I saw the white focused, and it was teeth. Large canine teeth. And it had massive jaws. I could really see just how massive the animal actually was.
Rather than noticing the frightened John, the creature simply walked away into the darkness once it got a fill of the night air. Still standing there shaking in fear, John watched as the creature made its way back into the wilderness. What was it, and where could it have come from? John must have released a sigh of relief when the creature made its way from the scene. Not completely, though, as he could still hear the strange guttural growl. What a strange creature indeed. After such an experience, John understandably would never forget what the creature looked like. When recalling what its face looked like, John uneasily revealed that the creature seemed to have a face that was human and not human at the same time. According to John, it had a broad forehead and something that resembled a snout. It was not like a bear's snout or a wolf's snout. No, it was more like the snout that could be found on a human, if you will. Add the strong-looking jawline and the sharp teeth that could be found in that mouth of his, and you can say that this was one intimidating-looking monster. That said, John couldn't help but recall that the creature's eyes seemed to be its most intimidating features. Glowing behind the prominent brows found on the creature's head, they were almost as eerie as the eyes found in cats. What was even scarier about the theme was that these were not primal or animalistic eyes. No, they were eyes that betrayed a level of intelligence behind them. It was almost as though the creature has a certain level of awareness that John did not expect from it at all. Sure, its face looked wild and primal, but those eyes, good God! They were so terrifying that, as we mentioned earlier, the face of the creature is etched into John's memory. He simply could not forget how fascinating yet terrifying the creature's eyes were. That would take forever, and then some. Maybe this was due to the fact that John had never seen such a creature in his life.
From the fire pit, you can look up the hill that goes to that tree line, and I feel like at night, like there was something watching you. I always felt like their eyes just locked onto you from up there.
Be it in real time or on TV or in a book, John had never seen such a creature at all. The creature seemed to be so foreign to him that it seemed to be some sort of wild card or rare creature that had emerged from the pit of this forest to John. To John, this felt like some sort of challenge to what he knew about the natural world at the time. The creature looked to be so unbelievable that John must be forever grateful that the encounter was recorded on his trail cam. How else would anyone believe that he ran into such a creature in the wilderness? It truly is a crazy world that we live in. We can never really know what is truly out there in the woods. The creature in the footage. Speaking of said footage, let's take a look at how the entire encounter went down. Watching the footage, we can see how the creature slowly but surely emerges from the dead of night around about 1:34 a.m. in the morning. When you compare how large it is by using the trees in the area, you'd see how massive it is. Heck, it is almost as big as some of these trees, maybe even bigger. This is thanks to the fact that it seems to stand on two legs. Not only is it tall though, it is clearly a big boy, as we can see just how muscular it is. Sure, it is covered by thick dark fur, but its strong, powerful frame is visible for all to see. Watch as it stops to sniff the air. In those moments, the moonlight catches its intense eye. It is in those moments that we catch the eerie glow of the creature's strange eyes, the moment that left John unnerved by the creature standing before it. John even went on to confess that this moment still haunts him every time he takes a moment or two to take a look at the footage. The experience is as eerie as it is quick. We can see how it disappeared as quickly as it came out of the shadows. Sure, the footage continues for a while, but we would never see the creature again. The scene is so incredible that it is worth asking if John ever returned to the cabin. Upon being asked about this, John was compelled to confess that the entire experience left him shaken to his core, and understandably so. How on earth do you recover from being so close to such an imposing creature? As frightening as the situation is, John also confessed that he is also fascinated by it. After all, how do you actually make sense of the outdoorsman who is too frightened to return to his cabin in the woods? This used to be a place where he could find so much peace in his solitude. Now, it seems to be the spot that represents some trauma that he experienced in the past. This is interesting because this isn't the only scary situation that he had experienced in his life. After all, he has walked into some hunts without being able to see anything at all due to the darkness, and he was nowhere as frightened as he was when he had this encounter with this strange creature. That being said, John hasn't lost his love and respect for nature. Sure, it may throw you some curveballs from time to time by showing us some things that we may never truly understand due to how foreign they are to us, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. With that in mind, John stated that although he hasn't been back there ever since he ran into the creature, he does have plans of making a much-needed return to his cabin in the woods. He just cannot ignore his love for the wilderness forever, not because of some strange creature in the woods. He decided that this experience has actually helped him appreciate what nature has to offer to us. Sure, it is full of surprises, and as such we don't know what is out there, but this just means that there is a lot for us to discover, and isn't that fun to think about? That said, he does plan to take some more cautionary measures now that he's a bit more aware of what may be lurking in the darkness in those woods. Once he makes sure that he respects the creatures in the woods, he will be making a return to reclaim his solitude in his cabin. John also stated that he would be putting up some more trail cams when he returns to the woods. Wouldn't it be awesome to get some more footage of this strange creature? Who knows? There could even be more of them out there. Whatever the case may be, John won't be going out there to look for them. He would be going out there to take nature in for themselves. Maybe, just maybe, it would coincide with running into the creature or its kind once more. That being said, this is a fascinating peek into the blurred lines between fantasy and reality. Maybe one day, we may even know more about the creature that the outdoorsman ran into in the Michigan wilderness. From an unnerving silence in the wilderness to this strange sound emanating through the dead of night outside a cabin in the middle of nowhere, here's how this hunter captured the creepiest Michigan Dogman encounter on trail cam.